Welcome to this explainer. I'm putting on my sustainable tourism consultant hat today, and we're taking a deep dive into an absolute miracle of a turnaround. We're going to audit exactly how Rwanda transformed its global image, moving from a deeply scarred history to becoming a shining, self-sustaining model of biodiversity and success for the rest of the African continent.
Here's our roadmap for the assessment. First, overcoming a tragic past. Second, rebuilding through culture. Third, profit in primate protection. Fourth, reviving the savanna ecosystem. And finally, the blueprint for ecotourism. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Overcoming a tragic past and establishing our baseline. To really grasp the magnitude of Rwanda's ecotourism success today, we absolutely have to acknowledge the heartbreaking reality of the 1990s. In 1990, an ethnic civil war threw the country into chaos. Then, in 1994, a horrific 100-day genocide left a profound, devastating scar on the nation. Rebuilding from that point wasn't just about fixing roads or buildings. It meant using traditional village tribunals and collective memory to piece together the entire social fabric. To put the sheer scale of that grief into perspective, at the Kigali Memorial alone, which is built right over mass graves, 250,000 victims are buried. Remembering and honoring that immense loss has been a foundational, crucial step in the country's ongoing healing process. Moving on to Section 2, rebuilding through culture, dynamism, and vitality. So how do you rebuild from the ground up? Well, Rwanda made some highly strategic cultural adaptations. Agriculture is still the absolute backbone, employing 90% of the population, but they made a massive pivot to use English as the official second language right after Kinyarwanda. Why? To plug directly into global economic growth. Alongside a huge push in education, they've also made sure to hold on to their roots, actively preserving their incredibly rich oral traditions, poetry, and traditional ngoma drumming to keep their history alive. And you can literally feel that energetic pulse everywhere you go. There are over 78,000 brightly tunicked motorcycle taxis roaming the country. It's this buzzing, everyday hustle that proves grassroots enterprise is absolutely thriving in modern Rwanda. All right, Section 3, profit in primate protection, from poaching to preservation. Now here's where my field assessment gets really exciting. How did wildlife become Rwanda's ultimate economic engine? As a consultant, I look for models that actually scale, and their 4-step conservation framework is honestly a masterclass. First, you protect vulnerable habitats. Second, you enforce super strict ecotourism protocols. Third, you implement community revenue sharing. And fourth, almost organically, local mindset shift entirely toward conservation. Let's look at how that played out in Nyungwe National Park, one of Africa's most stunning primeval forests. It was historically known as the Forest of Demons. The old mindset? Cut down the forest for fuel and hunt chimpanzees for bushmeat. But the new mindset flips the script completely. Now, chimpanzees are highly protected, premium tourism assets that bring vital money directly into the national economy. There's a quote from a local park ranger that really hits the nail on the head. He noted that the people reknew the importance of chimpanzees because they bring the money in, so now they're somehow safe, not like before. Conservation isn't just some abstract ideal here, it's a shared, highly lucrative reality. And the results are just phenomenal. High up in the Virunga Mountains, despite historical threats of poaching and deforestation, there are now an estimated 800 mountain gorillas thriving. This incredible rebound owes a lot to the rigorous protection measures sparked by pioneers like Dian Fossey. But here's the catch. If you're going to capitalize on gorilla tourism, you need incredibly strict visitor controls. Tourists have to hike for hours in very small, controlled groups, and observation time is capped at exactly 1 hour, no exceptions. It ensures that chasing tourist dollars never comes at the expense of a species that shares 97% of our human genetic makeup. Section 4. Reviving the savanna ecosystem and reclaiming Akagera National Park. It's wild to think about Rwanda's massive geographical diversity packed into an area smaller than Belgium. You've got primeval forests with chimps in Nyungwe, volcanic mountains with gorillas in Virunga, and over in the east, the sprawling savanna of Akagera, which is home to lions, hippos, and zebras. What makes Akagera's story so crazy is that after the Civil War, a massive influx of returning refugees meant the park was literally truncated by 50% to provide land. Even after losing half of its landmass, the biodiversity auditing in Akagera today will blow your mind.
We're talking over 1,500 hippos navigating the riverbeds. There are 525 identified bird species, including the massive African jabiru. Add in 1,800 zebras grazing the restored savanna and a giraffe population, which originally started as just 6 Maasai giraffes gifted from Kenya that has boomed to 90.
And it gets better. They actually managed to bring back the apex predators. The park used to have 300 lions back in 1975 before they were entirely wiped out. Recently, they took a major calculated risk and imported 7 lions from South Africa. It paid off brilliantly. Those 7 imported lions have already natively produced 7 new cubs, doubling the population to 14 right out of the gate.
But listen, you can't just drop animals in and enforce laws with a heavy hand. Reclaiming the land required integrating former poachers into brand new roles. Think about it. If you take away their illicit earnings from poaching, you literally have to replace that income with park employment. And that pragmatic, human-centered approach is exactly what park management successfully executed.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, the blueprint for ecotourism, connecting wildlife to welfare. To tie this entire assessment together and see exactly how these tourism dollars flow back into human prosperity, we need to look at one absolute magic number, 5%. By law, 5% of all national park revenues are funneled directly back to local cooperatives. So the money generated by a tourist looking at a gorilla or spotting a lion goes straight into building hospitals and schools for the people living right there around the parks. And this revenue sharing is supercharged by local commerce. For instance, local women's associations weave agaseki, these beautiful, traditional woven baskets, which are sold to eco-tourists along with high-quality regional teas. By tying traditional crafts and local agriculture to this steady influx of visitors, the entire community transforms into willing, active stakeholders in preserving their environment. So, what's our concluding takeaway from this field assessment? Rwanda successfully transformed itself from a nation defined globally by tragic conflict into a premier, self-sustaining model of environmental stewardship. It proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that you simply cannot separate environmental health from human resilience. When the wildlife thrives, the community thrives. I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. If Rwanda could overcome one of the darkest chapters of the 20th century to turn tragedy into a massive ecological and economic triumph through focused ecotourism, what is stopping the rest of the world from adopting this exact blueprint? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep learning.